Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a second career registered nurse with extensive hospice and palliative care experience. Also a book author, writing books for my fellow hospice nurses, clinical managers, holistic nurses that look at mind, body, spirit, and soul. Not everything is a medication. Caregivers, and my fellow end-of-life doulas, for which I am one. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about areas related to death and dying. After all, we are all going to die. It should not be a mystery. It should not be a stigma, something that we refuse to talk about. Oh, one day later, before it's too late. If these are topics of interest to you, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell notification so you're notified of new videos. And if you like the video that you're currently watching at some point in time, please do hit the like button. It does help small channels like my own. The topic for today's video is going to be looking at legacy work. So legacy projects are ways to preserve memories for future generations to come. And so I do want to have a conversation of that. But before we go into that area, for which will be part in tutorial form, well, you'll see my little picture in a corner somewhere while I show you my computer screen. I do want to go over building resilience. I had a wonderful Zoom conversation today with the founder and creator of Murial Life, Gary Casella, if I'm not mispronouncing his last name. And part of the ending portion of the discussion is, how do you stay resilient? How do you continue moving on in the face of storms? And when anyone works in the field of end of life, that is an unbelievably common question. People would say, I don't see how you do it, or it takes a special person. Now, I don't want to ever argue, not that I do my best not to argue, but I believe it's a calling. But in terms of how we do it is by building resilience. For me, there are three pillars. There's my faith in Christ Jesus. There's working through forgiveness. And there's the third one that I try to ask all of my viewers to participate with me in, and that is gratitude, expressing gratitude. To me, if you work on those three pillars, when life storms come, and they do, instead of being so depressed, which is not a chemical imbalance, by the way, the science has proven it is not a chemical imbalance. But when those times come where things seem very dark, we can find ways to have hope because of the resilience. And so in terms of what I'm thankful for, one of my friends, mentors, colleagues, a person that I look up to, a person that I've shared of everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, anyone who has been involved in my life, in my path, in the walk of becoming a nurse and being a nurse, this one person's lessons I have used almost every day of my life in and out of nursing. Her mentorship was that impactful. Yes, that's you, Professor Rhonda F. I don't want to kill your last name. I believe it's pronounced Forsh. And words don't have enough of appreciation for the lessons that she taught. She taught mental health at Harrisburg Area Community College, Lancaster campus, when I was in Pennsylvania. And she gave me words of praise as it relates to this book here, Crucial End-of-Life Conversations. So this is a book that I had published for any end-of-life professional. It's mainly meant for end-of-life doulas, but hospice nurses, social workers, chaplains, volunteers. It's written in layperson language that anyone who has a heart for how do I have these very complex, difficult conversations and do it in a way that's meaningful with positive outcomes, regardless of what the person is on end of life for. The diagnosis is irrelevant. This book is written in a way that no matter why they're at end of life, This will provide help on how to have those meaningful conversations. So she had wrote me that she got the book and it's just really helping her through an area of her life. And I'm so grateful for that, not only that encouragement, and I'm keeping, Ron, if you're watching, I'm keeping you in this situation in prayer. And God always works. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm also grateful for my fellow classmates of International Dual Life Movement, IDLM. I am in cohort number 25. Tomorrow, which is the date, I'm filming this on Tuesday, July 15th. Our last class is Wednesday evening, July 16th, with the graduation to be determined. But I took the final exam today, and I was so thrilled to achieve 100% the first time taking the exam. And for those who've been watching my adventures, my journey, I went to pay the $115 to take the National End of Life Alliance, the NEDA micro proficiency badge. And PayPal does not like my email address at compassioncrossing.info. So I'm waiting for technical support to help through that issue because that's the email address for which I registered with NEDA, and it's a working email address. Not a fan of PayPal, but that's a completely different story. But here, one of my classmates said that she purchased Crafting Meaningful Legacies. This not only has in chapter 3 50 different legacy ideas, and one of them really appealed to her. That's like, she said she's gonna start working on this now while she's alive for her project, so that when her time comes, it's simplified. What a beautiful way. Plan it now so that whenever the event happens, this could be years, it could be decades, and yes, she could change it and update it as time goes on. But chapter 3 is 50 different projects. And every project mentioned in the book uses SMART goals. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time specific, meaning that how much time is going to be involved. And every one of the legacy projects has an estimated budget for the different materials that are involved. And so, Miriam, thank you so much for buying the book, and I'm so glad that you like it. But that's going to be part of today's talk because I want to continue to support and bring life to Gary Casella's work at Murial Life. Gary not only has a heart after Christ Jesus, but he has a heart for helping those who are going through dark times at end of life. And I mentioned Murial Life at least 3 times in this book. In chapter 3 is one of the 50. I mention it in the chapter that deals with the short prognosis, because chapter 3 is 50, but chapter 4, chapter 5, and a couple other chapters, my short-term memory is like this. I reference, what if we know the prognosis? Because if somebody has 6 months, you could do any of the 50. But if they only have 2 weeks to live, you're tight on time. And when hospice gives estimates, and I've had patients, I still remember the one family in Hanover called and told the social worker, I was accurate down to the minutes. And as a side note, I didn't tell her any minute. I didn't give a minute mark. I didn't even tell her the time. I gave a ballpark, and this is why people hear what they want to hear. I'm not complaining about this person, but they hear what they want to hear, and they call Peter, like, got it right down to the hour and the second and the minute. I'm like, I didn't even know how to respond. I mean, I'm grateful for the thanks, but on the same token, I didn't give a date, time, and hour, minute, and second. I'm not God. I gave an approximation that did not include an hour, minute, or second. But I've also been horribly off. I still remember the one family where I saved the life of the daughter who was not a patient. That's its own story for another episode. Comment below if you want to hear the story. It's one of those, I have weird stuff happen as a nurse. It's like my coworkers would like, they couldn't believe it. It's like, talk to the family. But I saved the daughter's life. The mother had pulmonary fibrosis. And I believe that the mother was at the 3-month mark. I'm sorry, take that back. 3-week mark, mispronounced. Big difference between weeks and months. I thought she was at the 3-week mark, very, very close to the 2-week mark. The last day that I saw her, I was really questioning myself, should I consider her 2 weeks or less? Because it was that close to the 2-week mark from what I was seeing. And when I got up the next morning and I looked on my tablet, the Samsung we were using, home care home base, and she was red, which either meant revoked or died, I knew she didn't revoke. I was relatively close to the family. And so when I called the daughter to offer my condolences, the daughter whose life I literally, and I do mean literally, saved, she was like, "You knew she was going to die and you didn't tell us." And I didn't have a response because it's like there's no, I always believe if you don't have anything positive to say, so I'm not there. Her daughter's already suffering enough with that loss. It's not my place to do anything but fall on the sword, even though I didn't know. So we were talking with the legacies, trying to stay on track. Even if you know, like there's 2 weeks, sudden death happens. And one of the reasons it's mentioned several times in the book is there's an appendix that if you're the doula and you're focusing on legacy work, or you're having legacy work as one of your service offerings, you need to, I can't stress this enough, you need to have a plan in your back pocket that if that patient goes sooner than anticipated, you could still deliver a meaningful, long-lasting, impactful legacy for the family. That after all, unless you donated, and even then, even if you're doing it for free, to me, everything should be wonderful, free or charge. I can't stress this enough. And as I share what I'm about to share, I need to put the fine print, the asterisk. I'm not preaching in what I'm about to say, but I'm sharing it from my heart because it's what I believe in. There's a place in the Bible, and I know some of you don't believe in the Bible. I'm not preaching at you, but I'm just sharing what I believe, not telling you what to believe. But there's a place in the Bible, in the New Testament, that says, whatever you do, do it for the Lord. And I put that into my own practice. So even whether you're doing it for free or for pay, give 100%, 110, give everything that you have. So if you're doing that, you need to have a plan, and that's where Murial Life, and there'll be links below. I'm going to be shortly skipping off this talking head video to get into showing you what I created, and I will also share the faux pas that I made with this. But I ended up using Murial Life as part of my case study that was part of the work to graduate for the International Doula Life movement. So Murial Life, it is a digital platform that allows you to create a living or after the fact obituary. It depends on your point of view, a living legacy. It currently has 2 pricing models. I'm trying to encourage Gary to use 3. But there's a free limited duration. Right now it's 7 days. I'm not going to put any words in Gary's mouth. He's looking at whether it should be longer or keep it at 7. And then there's a lifetime membership for $150, which for lifetime, for what it offers, is a fantastic value because you have complete ownership through life, your life, your next generation's life. So when we're talking lifetime, we're not just talking the lifetime of the person who paid. We're talking life, your grandchildren, your grandchildren's grandchildren, and so on. It is a beyond wonderful product. I'm not going to take you through how to use it. I'm going to share with you how I use it. It has 2 modes. It has the graphical interface for building it out. And I did not take that route for my case study because I've built websites with WordPress and I wanted to see how easy the assisted mode is. Now, and I'll give you more warning when I get into the tutorial, I did the assisted mode the wrong way. Basically, the assisted mode works is you give out the link to different parties and they sign in with their own email address and their name and they upload photos and wording. And I created a different email address than my normal one, but I use the same one with one name. So when we get to the one board, I'll explain to you why it says Peter Abraham for everything versus if I would have done it correctly, I would have made like a half a dozen different email addresses with a half a dozen different made up names for the case study. But the effect was beautiful still nonetheless. And I really believe in this product. So, and there will be links below. So before I go much further, I'm going to jump into the tutorial section for that from your life. Um, there won't be a formal outro. The outro will be when I say goodbye in the tutorial section. I do appreciate your time. And for those of you who are repeat visitors, thank you so much. Do subscribe and like. So I just wanted to introduce from a virtual perspective. This is Gary Casella. I'm hoping I'm not pronouncing Gary's last name incorrectly, but he is the founder of Murial. Young man, very ethical, and just loves working to help those of us in the end of life space. So I really appreciate Gary, and I do stand behind his work. What I'm going to be showing you today, and over here is Mirror Life, but before we get there, I just wanted to briefly go into to here. This is a case study that I did as part of the International Dual Life Movement. I cannot speak highly enough of the International Dual Life Movement, IDLM, as a school for end-of-life doulas. So if you are a individual where you're looking at, I feel called to work in the end-of-life space. I had a hospice nurse reach out to me yesterday via Facebook Messenger. I'm interested in becoming an end-of-life doula. Where do I start? This is becoming more and more common for nurses, not just hospice nurses, but nurses, certified nursing assistants, home health attendants, and other people that have no medical training whatsoever to say, I really want to be an end-of-life doula. What do I need to do? Now, I personally I've written 2 books, Becoming a Death Doula, Foundations in Practice, Becoming a Death Doula Business Group. There'll be links below. But as I've shared in other episodes, nothing replaces a good school. My books can be foundational. My books could be a frame of reference, but it doesn't replace a school. And I strongly believe in the International Life Movement because it is not only an in-depth course. In fact, there was a conversation last night. Should they take the course? This one that I'm graduating ran April 23rd through July 16th. So you can count up the weeks in between. Some of it was self-study, but the majority of them is live, not a webinar. This is live via Google Meet where you get to talk to the instructor and talk to your fellow students and bounce questions and raise your hand and this doesn't make sense. There are schools out there that give you webinars that they're recorded that could be how old? Oh no, but IDLM's presentations are fresh. And every time they have a new cohort, cohort 26 is going to be in August, if my memory is correct. Every time they're looking at how can we make this program better and better and better, because one day there might be a governing body or an accreditation for the schools, and IDLM is consistently positioning themselves so that if they drop the hammer, they're ready for it. They're ready for it when that hammer drops. Not all schools can say that if accreditation were to happen next week, that they would be ready next week. Many of them would say, wait a second, we're going to need a year or 2. IDLM is consistently ready. They continue to raise the bar on the training. So I am very confident that when Nita works out my issue with PayPal accepting my compassioncrossing.info email address, that when I take that test, I should be able to pass that test the first time. They do great preparation for this. So before I go on too much, because this video is not about IDLM, it's about Murial life and legacy work, I just want to mention why I'm showing you what I'm showing you. This individual has passed. Every hospice patient that I've ever cared for touched my heart beyond measure in one way, shape, or form. In terms of full transparency, I would be lying to you if I could say I remember everybody's name or I remember what everybody looks like. But I remember the overwhelming majority of the stories and how they touched me in meaningful ways. And the gentleman pictured here, I hope to always keep in my heart in heaven. Now, when we get to the mural, you're going to see here, I don't mean to tease him. I use the name McDonald as the last name. If you haven't guessed it now, that's a made-up name to protect anonymity. But in a way, I'm not worried about HIPAA as it relates to Ronald, because him and his family personally named me in the obituary. So they made it public knowledge that he was on hospice in which agency, and they gave my full name. So to me, that's enough to say it's okay to share a portion of the story. And I'm just so honored to have been Ron's nurse and talk to him. So I'm not going to go through the entire presentation, by the way, because I do want to focus on Murial life. But I did want to jump over to a prayer that I want to read to you. I know you can read, but it's something that I think all of us, especially if we work in the end of life field, we need to focus on this too when we talk about building resilience. I didn't come up with it. The author is unknown. The other serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to stop beating myself up for not doing things perfectly. But I'm guilty of that. The courage to forgive myself because I'm working to do better. And the wisdom to know that you already love me just the way that I am. That's so important. So I'm going to now skip over. I just brought that up just part of resilience. So bear with me. So that you're aware, he did not die this year. This was a retrospective case study, and in order to report it, so to speak, to my fellow students, there are certain facts that were kept and certain facts that were altered. But with Murial Life, you have the ability to go into a mode where you could just sign up with an email address, give different people the email address to, here's the page, sign in with your email, put in commentary, upload pictures, and it will create this for you. I'm not going to turn on the music. I had a chance to talk to Gary today, but I forgot to tell him there should be a way to pick the music scene for that. But you get to upload different pictures and work through the page. So Ron touched so many people, and he was an adventurer. And so you get to upload different pictures. I really like how it did it. You can say, see all the photos. And how it works and how you feel about this is going to vary from person to person. Murial Life does use a level of artificial intelligence to take what is given by the people who are writing in and massage it in a way that can present it compassionately and empathetically to shine light on it for a point of view. I know some people are very passionately against AI. But let me put it from this perspective. So I'm doing a recording. I mentioned I don't use teleprompters. I do edit like this is a tutorial portion. So when I go to connect this to the talking head, I look for a moment of silence and I trim out the silence, but I'm not using a teleprompter. So, but in terms of this camera setup, behind the camera is a light. And when I have that light turned off, especially if I have the overlight head on. Right now I'm using natural sunlight, but especially if the light above me is turned on, I look horrid. I look horrible. And I'm not saying this is about my looks. I'm a weird type of person. My class was teasing me. They're starting to pick up about how I platonically love people. I'm not conceited about my looks, but in terms of I want to be presentable to you. That's why I try to wear a nice shirt and so on. But without that light in the background, I don't feel I look presentable. So by having that light in the background, it enhances the overall image. So Gary's AI method, it enhances the message. The message is still there from the person. I was the person who wrote this. So what I see how it rephrase things is still what I meant. It didn't alter it to a degree that's not recognizable as coming from my mouth or from my hands typing. And I did appreciate Ron was in the dental corps, and he was an inventor. But you get to share the story for a person's life. And one of the lessons that I've learned in the end-of-life care field is those who are accepting of their outcome, that they're going to die, they know how to live better. And those of us who work in the field tend to know how to live better. I worked in IT. I mentioned that I'm a second career registered nurse. So I did 30 years of IT. 18 of the 30 was running a IT business that I founded. And in all of those 30 years, whether I was working for other people or working for myself, none of it taught me how to live until I worked in the field of hospice. Until I worked in the field of hospice and palliative care, nothing taught me how to live. It was working with people who were in very dark places, especially those like Ron. And there's another gentleman by the name of Philip, and Billy, one of my lifelong heroes, who each one has their own story. But because of how they approached dying, taught me how to live. And again, and this is the love board, and this is where I made the mistake. This is my bad. That had I logged in under a different name and a different email address, which would be the case in real life, if you created a board and you shared, here's an invite page so that people can come and comment and upload photos, that they would have their names on this. But that's where I just wanted to show you about Murial Life. This is a wonderful, wonderful product. Let me just go here. But it's just outright amazing to be able to create a long-lasting, for many generations to come, Murial. Now, I did not use the page builder because I wanted to try the commentary. And when I met Gary, by the way, met him from a virtual perspective because I believe he's over in Indonesia. But we were talking about Dan and Dan's story, and what an amazing difference that Murial made. Over 500 comments of people writing in to Dan, and Dan and the family sharing that when Dan received, his diagnosis, not everybody who's told you got 6 months or less to live takes it well. And one of the many reasons I appreciate the International Dual Life Movement is they walk you through the emotional stages that people go through. And yes, as a hospice and palliative care nurse, I've been there. But it's perspective, because I don't know it all. I have not seen it all. So when you have this, they run it like a university type program with cohorts, and you have all these different people in the cohort sharing their stories from different points of view. The heartache, the sadness, why they're becoming a doula. What did they deal with? What is the legacy they want to leave? It is beyond meaningful. So I met Gary when we were back in May. He actually looked up to today during our call. It was May 13th that we first met. And ever since then, it's like, Gary, go. You have a wonderful product that I believe is very beneficial in the space of creating legacies. So if you're an end-of-life professional and you want another item in your toolkit, how could I create a meaningful legacy for my family? This could be one of them. In fact, you might want to leave your family 2 meaningful legacies. This is an option. I am really, really hoping that Gary works on, he has the free version, but it only lasts for 7 days. And he's thinking about whether that should be longer or not. And then 150 forever. I shouldn't have used the word lifetime. 150 forever. I'm trying to encourage Gary that he should have a subscription model and in between for those who need more than 7, or if he expands it to a month, but those who need somewhere in between. But this is such a wonderful, wonderful product that Gary has available out there for end-of-life professionals. And it works so well, and it's so meaningful. So if you have any questions, please comment below. I believe that we all should be collaborating. If you're an end-of-life doula, I want to collaborate with you. I want to be able to lift up your practice. I want to be able to help grow your practice. If you could help grow mine, great. But you know what? If you can't do anything for me, I still want to help you. Because I strongly believe that we were put on this earth for more than me, myself, and I. I'm not saying that to chastise you. That's part of why I operate the way that I do. If I can make a difference in somebody else's life for the positive, it's not just about me and my legacy, but to me, that makes, we all bloom. So if I can help you bloom, I'll help you bloom. If I could help brainstorm with you on different things, I'll brainstorm with you. The person who asked about becoming a doula yesterday lives in the area that I serve. Did I look at this person as competition? Some people might have, because she's from the area, she lived in the area that I serve. She now lives a little bit further away, but you know what? It's collaboration. I believe that if you're going to go down this route, go to IDLM, that I strongly endorse. And here's a link for the courses. Here's a link for free discovery. Here's the summer fest that's starting towards the end of July that's free for several days just to get to see what things are like. Because if we collaborate, we all bloom. If we collaborate, we all benefit. So if you have questions, comment below. Non-judgmental channel. Thank you so much for your time. God bless, and bye.